everyone, welcome back to Frenemies, the podcast where growth meets reality. Today I'm joined by Dorothea Gam, CMO at Mouseflow. Dorothea, you have just at SaaSiest led roundtables on the topic of how to use AI in marketing and in business, which we'll talk about today, and I'm very excited about that. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's a pleasure. Yeah, so as I already mentioned, AI is everywhere in marketing right now. It's everywhere in business, but especially so in marketing. Or where do you think that the reality of using AI in a meaningful way doesn't match the hype?
I think today it's AI. I think, it is the hype. It's not a short-term hype. It's definitely a long-term hype. But I think that we all kind of try to find a balance how to land on using AI because, as you mentioned yourself, AI is a lot of things. Is it from a marketing perspective, at least, it would be from a process point of view, effectivizing some workflows that you have. So one thing is how we use the tool in our everyday life, but also what does AI mean to the market that we're in as marketeers, also meaning that some changes will come here. I think the biggest hype right now is that everybody's on AI, everybody's doing it, everybody's doing working on it, and we are behind on everything. I think many companies or marketeers are sitting and getting the feeling that they're behind everything. And I think that hype is not true. Um, as you just mentioned, I've just been at SaaSiest meeting a lot of peers and in my own industry. And yes, some of them are at some level, some have hardly began. But that said, even though those who have like pretty much integrated, like we self in Mouseflow, are very far, but there's still a long road to go and still a lot of things to do.
Mm,
So I think the hype right now is like everybody's doing it. We need to be behind. I think you can also still calm down a little bit. There's still room and
mm.
time. There's no doubt that you need to get, if you haven't started anything yet, get started. But that said, I think that um, that if you're sitting with the feeling that you're behind and doing AI, actually, you're probably not behind.
I'm hearing that a lot as well. I think most so from marketers, but just looking at like the social media landscape, there is a new AI framework coming out, a whole new AI approach to everything, which I think gives you this feeling that you're behind. But also looking just at the last months, I think there were a lot of marketers who already established their ways of working with ChatGPT, and then Claude came out, and all of a sudden everybody is changing to Claude, and I think then it takes 2 weeks, and the new frameworks are coming out on Claude, and you feel like, oh, now all of a sudden I'm behind on that one. So it's also in a world that is developing so rapidly. I think it's very easy to have this feeling to be behind, right? Because there's already always someone who is like the first mover on something.
Definitely. And there's so many use cases out there that you can, I mean, if you wanted to take all the use cases you read about and create them yourself, you're gonna be building, building, building. So I think it's very important for
Mm,
people to look at the use cases that they're there in the market right now to kind of also prioritize what will actually give me the most value from where we're standing, where what we need, and so on. But I think that many can be very overwhelmed because you can do a lot, but you also need to reflect on where you are as a company. What tools do you have already? I can personally say from myself in Mouseflow, we've had a we've been over the last year, 2 years working very much on connecting our data that has
mm.
given us logically a really good foundation for using Claude for data. Then we also need to have other connectors in to kind of get the full picture. But of course, if you don't have that data set yet assembled one place, you need to connect multiple places. And that's also a lot of work. And that's might be, a developer that you need. You need to have the CFO within it. You have to have maybe a data responsible person in it. You have to have legal in it. What can we put in? There's so many areas.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're sitting and that's itself just a huge project. So if you think that if you're sitting out there don't have that, then start small with the things that you can actually. Because what's amazing, I think, with Claude compared to some of the other tools that we've seen AI before is that it can crunch your data so fast and actually give you some super valuable insights.
Mm,
So even though you don't have the whole data foundation, start small with the data that you actually have. Connect it. Let's say that you do it LinkedIn ads. Connect the MCP that LinkedIn have, and then just start there. Understand your data set there, and then you can kind of build as you go. But I think the most
mm.
important for people to not get overwhelmed, it's just accepting that like everything else, it still takes time to build. You still need to, you can't get an overview in one day. Yes, as soon as you get all the data in, yes, Claude can crunch it very fast for you, but it still takes time to build.
Definitely. And I mean, from what I'm hearing, you advise also to take the time to build and take one step after the other to get there instead of trying to do magic work overnight.
But definitely, I guess it's like when the internet came out. I mean, you can, or even today, you can go into a rabbit hole with Claude. You can look for so many insights and find so many maybe key insights, action points that you need to take. But if you don't stop in 2 seconds and think, what is the actual goal of which insights do I actually need to
Mm,
understand? What is the most valuable right now where I am? Then you can continue for ages. Just okay, this is. But if you don't get anything tangible or actionable for you to move forward on,
mm,
then yes, you get a lot of insights. But what do I then do with this? So I think it's super important to, when you start a prompt, which you usually do when you do go into these kind of tools, then think about what is my aim here? Why am I starting this prompt? What is it I'm trying to understand? What is it I'm trying to, and sometimes it is a prompt that may be a little bit more holistic, a more generic, general kind of to actually identify which rabbit hole or which path I want to go. And that's also okay.
mm.
But I think the essence here is to also have a stop at some way and say, okay, now I've gotten the insight that I needed, the action I needed. Now I actually act on it.
Yes. How do you make sure? Like, I mean, you already mentioned goals and so on, but how do you make sure that what is like tested in Claude or in AI constantly aligns with the priorities you have and
Mm.
with the business problems you're trying to solve?
Well, logically, we still have, our strategy, our tactics, where we're heading. So, of course, what we try to investigate in Claude and understand and getting the right answers is linked to our strategy, is linked to our
Mm,
tactics. So, right now, at this current stage, one of our tactics is still ads, but we want to understand better how it works. So, what I actually do right now with my team is not just getting the insights, but also parallelly and simultaneously working the documentation, but also adding the strategy in Claude so it understands what's happening. So, basically, the changelog we have had in our case in our intranet, a more simple page where we just put the changelog of what we've done in ads, now is also connected to Claude. So we can just say to
mm,
Claude, please update the changelog with what I did today. So you see simultaneously working with a process of how to understand, is it the right structure that I'm having, for example, within this ads group or these areas, and then you can start deep diving. But so we've tried really to try to do three things at once: feed it
mm,
with the right information, documenting things that would take ages for us to document before, and actually also being operational and still drive the growth, still drive our business at the same time. Because I think that if you just start to say, okay, I want to have a dashboard somewhere and understand the performance, you can easily end up very long time to build the right dashboard. But if you don't, again, come back to the right action or right insights, or if you can't go back and document it, so Claude also keep understanding, why did I build it like this? Because Claude can give you the data, but if it doesn't necessarily understand the strategy around it, the purpose around it, the
mm,
goal around it, it might suddenly give you insights that is not aligned with your strategy.
yeah. So, talking about strategy, do you think companies currently have an AI strategy, or is that like mainly AI activity?
I think that without necessarily having all the numbers, my impression is that many people still have the activity more in smaller or bigger range. Some companies definitely have a bigger strategy, but I think it is also so new for all of us
Mm.
that having a fixed strategy that potentially can change in within 3 months, 2 months, we can just see it as you mentioned yourself, right, Claude, how fast it has. I mean, you can't open your LinkedIn feed and not see something about Claude, right? So it's super difficult. So right now, I have myself changed some of the tactics, some of the strategy that we are doing in marketing. But I had one in my team asking, so okay, can we rely on this strategy over the next 6 month year time? And I actually had to be honest with her and say, I'm not 100% sure because we're moving so fast right now
Mm.
that I actually can't necessarily tell you that after the summer break, that something else that maybe I didn't expect or didn't see or didn't know
Mm.
also will change some of our tactics. It's not because I think that I'm a stage where we need to shift 100%, but we might need to change 20% of it. And I think that's what we all facing right now in today's world,
Mm.
that it's the 2 3 year old plan that you could do build is today more 6 month plans ahead, maybe a year, but I think it's super difficult to say, okay, this is what we're gonna do the next 3 years. And I think actually if you start spending time on building that, you might actually lose time on it because I don't think what we do now is the reality in 3 years. I think it's just gonna
Mm.
expand even more and you're gonna see new job functions coming in, new processes, new work ways we're doing. They're definitely not gonna be exactly the same as we do now in 3 years.
As you just mentioned, like there's plenty of departments involved. So, who do you think are, from a marketing perspective, are the people that need to get involved to actually shape an AI strategy, to make sure that exactly as you're doing, there is a process and it's getting operationalized and it is in alignment with the strategic direction.
Yeah, and that's a tough one, I think.
Mm.
I think that we ourselves have been facing that, okay, should we have one that is more managing as is it a full-time job? Is it a couple of hours a week? Is it an agency that we need to get in? How
Mm.
can we make this process, this documentation, this complianceness also within using these kind of tools more cross departments? Are we leading the same direction? Are we all operating in some ways? Do we, in general, for the whole company across, make sure that our team, that our people are all kind of in that direction, whatever they actually do? Because today you can say AI is not just within a specific department. It can literally be from everything in legal, finance to marketing to sales to everywhere. So are we actually preparing our team? Are we giving them the right knowledge? Are we giving them the right access and so on? So I think that many companies are sitting that situation and figuring out how to handle it best. And of course, depending on the size of the company, who you are, the bigger you are, the more people you are, you might actually be able to hire someone just doing that and focusing on
Mm.
that. The smaller you are, we're not the biggest company, we're 50 people. Do we hire one person to do that? Do we hire an agency? We're
Mm.
still facing that. So right now it lies a lot in the management team where we do have a weekly, just 30 minutes set up. How you working with team? It's more about tips and tricks. We're doing this, just calibrating, making sure that we don't, we get each other's knowledge, but also that we don't suddenly is spending time on double work. So
Mm.
our current strategy has been very much in the management group, basically making sure that we communicate around it.
Mm.
Is it ideal? Probably not the best solution, but this is where we are at right now. But I do think that in the future, you will have more of these AI people who is basically from a strategy point of view hired in. And that's also what I came from earlier. I mean, you're going to see these new job functions coming in that we didn't have before.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, at the same time, it's built in for every job function that already exists, right? Figuring out how exactly do you use AI in the most productive way, but also again in the way where you produce like the best quality at scale, right?
Mm.
Where
Exactly.
where do you see the biggest points where the human eye is still very much needed on marketing, but also product decisions?
I think in time, I think what I see right now at this current stage, the human eye, and is that, as I mentioned before, we make sure that it understands our change log. We make sure it understands why
Mm,
we feed the data, not just with numbers, but also facts of why we have decided that these type of ads should have this type of conversion goals and so forth.
mm,
What's the purpose? Because I can come with an example. What we saw when I tested out Claude in the beginning was testing our Google Ads performance over this year. And it came out with you hit Germany super well with this ad in February. You had a couple of days,
mm,
like a huge peak in signups and so forth. It was great. Keep going with this ad. You need to put more money in this ad. You need to put money in Germany. What I knew at that point was that I had seen back in February, oh, we have a unusual peak right now, and it was over a weekend. And on the Monday I came and I always start with looking at some numbers and I thought that was strange. We got like 50 more, no, I think it was 100 more signups than we usually get over a weekend in this particular area with this particular
mm,
ad. So I went in our CRM and finally, and very fastly saw that it was trolls. It was fake emails all the way. So
mm,
what that didn't mean that the ad was performing super well. So, then I put it in the change log, be aware of these dates. This ad was actually trolls that was coming in, fake emails. So don't put this in as this is a top performing ad. And that changed completely some of the analyze that it gave me back. So I think the human eye, if you don't feed that, of course, the more you feed that data, but that's the human person that needs to feed. There's still somebody who needs to feed it. Numbers can't answer everything. So I think that that's a super important part of it. The tactics, the strategy is the human eye, and of course, still also the comprehension of the things that's coming. I mean, I think that you can't still just blindly automate everything. I do hear some people, oh, now you can just automate your ads, you can create this and this and this. I don't think I wouldn't do it at this stage today. I would still make sure that before we implement something, we've had a human eye on it to verify, not
mm,
necessarily verify and recrunching the data ourselves, because then it would be a waste of time and you're just doing double work suddenly. But just having that, fact check, is it correct or is it something else before you actually implement? I can't say. Maybe in a year, maybe in 2 years, it will be so strong that you can start automating these things. But I still think that
mm,
you have to have a human approach to make sure that you feed it with the correct data and
mm.
information.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's a great point you're also bringing up here because I think there is a lot of value in like using AI to connect different workflows, right, and to connect different parts that otherwise are like a lot of manual work, like copy and paste and checking that this works and this works. And I mean, it's something that looking at CRM, CMS, and so on has already been happening on automating, but more and more people are using AI. The pitfalls are higher as well because all of a sudden, then if it doesn't work, or if connectors break, is a severe amount of time that needs to be
Mm.
spent on fixing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you can suddenly change some valuable things, some important, some both from a yeah value, but also from a paid point of view, your budget. You can suddenly do some shifts in your budget that weren't accurate. If you suddenly take some
Mm,
drastic decision, saying, okay, then I'm gonna move 20% of my budget over here, it might not be 100% bulletproof just because Claude or another AI tool told you so. So I think that it's important to keep an eye on it, and as you say, if it breaks also. But I've also tried that, adding data in, and then I look, for example, in LinkedIn ads. It's not the correct data. I don't see the same thing here, and then you have to make sure that you kind of prompt and skill Claude like, this is not what I see in my LinkedIn performance interface,
Mm.
and what I've experienced is it's super. I mean, when you see those kind of things, just always when you start creating these dashboards and performance dashboards or what you're building, once it gets where it needs to look, I think it's. I've seen it pretty solid, but I've seen
Mm.
also that I have to take a screenshot. You have to look here. Please look here, and then it's super. I mean, logically super intelligent to actually identify, oh yes, I see what you mean, I made a mistake. So it still makes mistakes, you still need to double check some things.
Yeah, absolutely,
Mhm.
and I mean, this is where the warning comes in, right?
Yeah, exactly,
So
the little in the
it's
button.
telling us yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
don't rely on everything you see.
Yes. But beyond, content production,
Mm.
which obviously is like a massive use case, for AI in marketing, where is AI actually, moving the needle in marketing right now?
Well, I think that marketing right now, I mean, I think that, ChatGPT came really out in the industry 3 years back now. And it started slow, more like proofreading kind of things and so on. I think that the next level, the next shift is not just helping me create content, because you've been, if it's just like content copywriting, stuff like that, ChatGPT, other tools have been able to help you with that for a very long time now. So I
Yeah.
think that the next level is actually also being able to plot your content within your data, the facts, the ads that you have, and so forth, actually combining these two together. I still haven't seen tools that there is tools that are super strong still, but from a more the design perspective, the creative perspective
Mm,
of it, you still need to really ensure that you prompt it correctly. I think it's really, again, it's all about feeding it, making sure that you have your brand guidelines in it, making sure that you have your tone of voice in it. The more you feed it on how you want as your brand to um, be heard, the better, of course, the AI will give you answers or the content that you need. So I think that is only just developing in a more and more easy way for us, and it's
mm,
just a matter of time that it can actually create finished ads for us also from a creative point of view. I think that many people still see that it's not perfect, but you can still do a lot. What I do see from a content perspective, I think that for right now, for me, the use case is actually not that big in the sense that from a content, because we've been using tools for a while with this.
yeah,
But what I see is the market changes. There's also algorithms out there, especially within it's organic or paid, that is starting to be more like, well, we do know, we are seeing, people more rapidly changing the content, being able to optimize the content, changing to creatives. So, and that's, to hit back to what you started asking me earlier, like the trends or the hype out there is, oh,
yeah,
now we can, for example, remove X amount of people within some areas because now AI can just create the content for us. And I think you need to be really careful on that. I do definitely, there's definitely some places where you probably can add an AI agent instead. But for some other areas, and this is just an example because I would say that there's probably multiple depending on which department you're sitting in, but what I also see is the algorithm expecting more content, expecting more changes in
mm,
these ads. So there's also time that's saying the ads that actually used to work for a couple of months suddenly doesn't work as well anymore after just maybe a couple of weeks, because the algorithms are starting to get used to get more content. Almost everybody can do it. Almost everyone can create today.
yeah,
So the market pressure is also like, just because you were one person who could, let's just say, manage the ads, manage the creatives, you suddenly need to also manage the ads 3 times, 4 times faster than you had to do. The content, the creative needs to do done. You have to do 4 times more than you used to do.
mm,
And just because you have an agent helping you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have less things to do, because you in some ways need to run faster than you have had to do before. And I think that could be one of these hype that, oh, we can just replace people with AI agents. I think you need to really maybe take a chill pill in just 2 seconds. Really think this through before you take too drastic decisions. Um, but for sure, I mean, there will be. I mean, I think it's unrealistic to not think that there's some job positions out there that will be replaced by AI agents. But again, then like every other revolution we have in industries and technologies, other jobs appears.
Mm.
But the
Yeah, that
transformation
is.
is always hard.
It is, but simultaneously, we are in a time that is transforming and moving rapidly. And I mean, as you also said, this is not going to change anytime soon. And I think especially B2B SaaS is an area that is heavily impacted by AI because it goes beyond the use case of like what you use it for in marketing, because products are impacted as well, right?
Mm.
And how they actually combine with AI, the use cases of the actual product value, and so on. So the changes
Yeah,
are more tremendous than in other areas of business.
it's definitely more tremendous, and I mean, you can say there's like different layers. There's the like we mostly talked about here, the structure, the way of using it from a company point of view, and then as you mentioned, the product itself, especially in SaaS. How will AI affect our product? I mean, we are facing also today like how will AI affect? I mean, we are data analytic tool. It's all about data. AI is all about data. Logically, how will that affect the use of our product? And it's definitely something that is something we are at this. I mean, not just like, oh, we know we need to have the discussion. We're discussing it heavily. We need to really rethink the product itself and also how people use our product. And me myself, I can see being a marketeer myself, and our products persona are marketeers. Well, what do I want to have? Well, as a CMO, also as a leader, but also from the people in the team that I have within their specialization, I'd rather have, one tool that can give me all the answers of the data. I want to connect everything and not have to open 5, 6 different platforms, figure out their dashboard, their performance, and then have to go back and compare it with something else and so forth. If I can get everything in one, that would be ideal. And then maybe if it can even, link me towards to something else, that would be to understand it better in the
Mm.
tool. Great. And that's what also we're facing in Mouseflow. I mean, we just launched our Mouseflow MCP to Claude or other AI tools, and yes, that also means that our roadmap is changing and some of the things that we had planned. Well, we won't have to do that because actually Claude can create more faster dashboards that we can. We have, template in our dashboard templates that people can use, but it doesn't make sense anymore to continue developing in some of these areas because Claude can actually literally create the dashboard that you need within seconds with the prompt that that specific person, that specific persona need. So I think that definitely there's some areas here that's changing,
Mm.
but we still also really thinking about then how can we still have a product or platform, and in our case we don't feel that we're sitting in gold data, so you can say that behavior analytics, that's what we do. So that data that comes in that people have installed in their website, that is not lying in Claude without you having an MCP or connector installed. But
Yeah.
to get the full view, you might still need to look at the heat map. You might still need to check the session report. You still need to build some funnels, some user journey road in the platform itself. But again, Claude can go in and crunch more data for you faster in what you do in Mouseflow. And then if you want to get a more deep dive in it, you can actually go into a
Mm.
platform. So I think that many people are sitting in that situation in SaaS, especially those who have data as an engine. How can we, yeah, be co-players, but also making sure that our product is valuable
Mm.
and why people would want to still pay for our product. So I think that's one of the worlds that we're looking into today. But I think that many people are still trying to somehow figure out because it's still so new.
Yeah, it definitely is. And as much as there is shifting and so on. I mean, a big part of using these tools, implementing these tools is also playing around with them, right?
Mm,
And testing, and that part can be quite fun because you figure out use cases that you didn't know existed, or figure out a very great case on for yourself. But of course, it also involves figuring out the problems, what doesn't work, what needs improvement, and that
mm.
has to go on the priority list somewhere, right?
Yeah, and I think that that's for me the most amazing, as I mentioned, like the crunching the data. I mean, you can easily find some low-hanging fruits, some things that might needs to be part of a bigger implementation plan before we can fix this issue. But for me, it's where these kind of AI can help you really get to the next level is that it can crunch data that a human eye can't crunch in so few minutes.
Mm,
It's almost impossible, I think, to crunch all that and get and understand the synergy between your data.
mm,
I think that yes, there's some things that it's coming out and saying to me that, oh, okay, I probably would have figured that out at some point, but I probably had to link multiple places to figure this out, looking at multiple dashboard, making the connection to this, and I mean, that's a huge game changer for us to understand faster how our data performs
mm,
in real time. And of course, there's been real time and data performance for a very long time now, even before AI came. But
mm,
being able to put all that data in at once and having a machine that can actually crunch massive amounts of data in such a short time, that's super new, and we need to figure out how to land on it. And I think that many people still knows how to land on it, but yeah, that's a little bit like I told earlier, right? And then also getting the actions out of it.
yeah, absolutely. Um, do you, in your opinion, are companies becoming more customer centric because of AI and the data being used there?
I think definitely. I mean, one of our strategies that changed to be even more customer centric than we've ever been, I would say in some ways. I think that because of AI, because of all this communication
Mm,
has been a very long time digital, but and has also been written by AI for a certain couple of years now. But the optimization with it will just even be more massive than ever.
mm,
So I think that many people will be more okay. I think that we had already that transformation. What I heard 2, 3 years ago, oh, I could see this is AI writing to me. Oh, I can see this is an AI image. Oh, I think already we are a step ahead on that transformation. Where people don't get as negative or pessimistic if it's they can read this is definitely something AI wrote. At least maybe there was a human person who prompted it, but it's definitely AI who wrote this communication. I don't think that we are as scared of it or feel actually that it's. I think many in the beginning thought it felt it was like cheating.
mm,
Where I think that the word cheating is less and less that because everybody's starting to use it, I really don't think you need to see it as cheating. You need to see it as an extra skill set that you have that can actually maybe build on other skill set that you had. I will say I've never been a content writer. I was never super. I've been always had opinion about what content was about, but don't give me a blank paper and say write a blog from scratch. I would be a little bit oh shoot how to do it and work and yeah back and forth. It would take me ages. With an AI tool, it takes me like yeah, I can easily go faster and then the human eye
mm,
make sure I have the right storytelling in it or to say the right tone that I want it and so forth. But I think that that skill sets you really need to just take it in. Yeah, I basically think that um and I kind of lost my point where your question came from the customer centric point of view was that I think that we're gonna rely more and more on physical events. I think we're gonna see more and more intimate roundtables, meetings,
mm,
networking groups popping up more than we had before. It's been there for a while, but I think that many of people are going to have more of these kind of sessions, so you actually can still feel that there's a human person behind the computer, behind the AI. I think that when it comes to customers, the loyalty, the trust in your tool will be still still based on a human person, not just because they sent a really good newsletter or did a super great onboarding communication. You will still want to feel that there's a personal aspect in it. So I definitely think that we're gonna see more customer centric events popping up, more focused on getting more customers feeling a little bit more VIP treatment than
Mm,
before. I was just at a conference here, or here Tuesday. That was LinkedIn who was doing it, and they will definitely also just change their strategy to that. I never seen LinkedIn having so many events physically that they have
yeah.
right now. So I think that then many will see that, and that is just going to be another phase, right? Then we're all going to compete to get people to come to our events. Uh, but then we take each thing at a time. I mean, logically, I mean, somebody started, we seem to working, we're all then starting to do the same. And then at some point, people are going to get fed up by all the events that they're going to get invited to. And then we are changing tactics again. And that's just how it works. I mean, that's just evolution in time that we're changing as we go, and how the market is actually interacting with things.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is something that, already increased like past COVID time, but now is increasing more and more. And I do think that is an element that has been there for a long time, but with AI coming in, it's getting amplified
Mm.
even more, and the focus is more on seeing the human behind the emails that are getting sent out, behind the content on LinkedIn, but also in a world where with AI everything is being documented and so on. I think it has shifted even more that the important conversations, important insights are often coming from the in-person
Mm.
conversations, and not only from like the digital world and what you see online.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's gonna have an impact, and like you said, with COVID, we got more events. I felt myself that in some ways it was still more the talks. Yes, more events came.
Mm,
Uh, I don't know actually. I'm thinking about that a couple of times. Like, did we actually get more events, or did we just open up for events again because we had it locked
mm,
down for so long?
yeah,
It was a lot on top of mind for people. We want to get out. We want to be more at the office again. But I also seen that much of it was also okay. Everybody wants to go outside, but I also think that many people felt it was comfortable to be sitting in your own home, remoting. So finding more that balance in between,
yeah.
and that you want to have the human interaction. I want to have the possibility to have actually an office I could go to, but I also want to have the flexibility to work from home. And the same goes for events. And at the same time, not that long after, I mean, then AI started to pop up, and we started to be. So I think that yeah, COVID did something, but I also think that the event part of it got a little bit more normalized again. But I think that AI is coming in again and kind of, yeah, pulling again that way even more. And it could also just not just be physical events, because there was a lot about COVID, right? But it would be online events where you're actually sitting with real people and not an AI agent who's actually, I mean, the next is probably going to the AI is hosting your event, but I think that people need to feel that you're actually sitting with a person.
Yeah, and I think the most important part to keep in mind also that sentence that has been around for a while now. You can't outsource your brain to AI, right? And that is a big part of having these conversations in person, of consistently showing where the ideas come from, where the strategy comes from, and not letting that feeling of AI is taking over everything, actually, exist for too long.
No, and exactly, but it's an interesting matter, right? Because I think that the human brain will need to feed, but actually we are working and still adding, but we've created our own marketing AI assistant. So
Mm,
basically, many things from how to processes to strategy to goals can be big, can be small. We're
mm,
feeding this agent with all that information. So it can, change some of the small to-dos in an everyday life. You have a somebody in your organization, in your colleague, maybe in marketing or outside of marketing, who needs to ask, "How do I find that?" A little bit like a support chat that we kind of feed it all these information. Well, who is sitting with what in the marketing team? Which roles do they have? So now they can actually just ask that AI agents, okay, or where? I mean, I think all marketers have seen this. Where do I find the logos again? Question kind of type, and you have to answer. And it's not because it takes super long to answer, but it kind of still, goes in and interrupts your maybe what you were doing and so forth.
yeah.
Now they can just ask the agent, where do I find these things? But now we're also going into continuing feeding it with our marketing strategy, with our thoughts, with our how to's, and so forth. So we're actually starting to build, you can say, a marketing brain within our company.
Mm,
Is it good? Is it bad? Are we losing some job? But I think that then we can focus on other aspects in our team that is pushing more in a way that is, I would say, more pressured, even more pressured than ever because of AI. So for us, so it's that we're shifting to other priorities and other things that we do. So some of the more um, things that we have to do all the time or answering all the time, we can move that away to AI.
mm,
And then those things that we need to develop more that continue working still with AI, we can actually have time to do that. So yes, you can say that it will not replace 100% the human brain, but you can actually go very far. And that I don't know if I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot, but right now I'm really feeding it with my CMO thoughts on it, and I'm just talking to it. Please create a document around my thoughts with this and this, feeding this marketing AI agents with my thoughts in it. I'm asking my team to do the same, and not to undermine their jobs, but basically from a more evergreen process. It can help us when we get onboardings in. They suddenly just have
mm,
an area where they can just ask the question, it will be able to answer you. But for me, the strong part of it is these recurrent tasks. We won't have time. We don't have time to spend on it anymore because there's other pieces in our tactics or content or whatever we do in marketing that needs to be, we need to spend more time on. So again, it's shifting the roles a bit and then
mm.
also accepting that AI will be here to help you and really taking it as a help machine because then I can focus in other areas that AI can't do for me right now.
Yeah. One thing on that, though, has the marketing AI brain ever said, "I don't know"?
Yes, because I
Ah,
prompted it.
fantastic.
So it has very clear instruction. You are not allowed to invent anything. If you can't answer the question, you have to refer to the person in marketing who would be able to answer. And that's where the job roles come in. And it can and we've tested and tested it. I've tested like tell me what I don't know. Right now, for example, I haven't plotted in the Google Ads strategy goals so forth in it. So I've tested it as like, what is Mouseflow's marketing Google Ad strategy? And then it actually goes and say, I don't have that information yet, but you can ask X person for more information. So yes, if you instruct it correctly, it can actually answer the right, give you the right answer for the right question.
Yeah, that is fantastic, and I think that makes you, from what I've seen and heard so far, ahead. Because just on a general and normal usage of AI, there is this problem that it's people pleasing. It's giving answers where it doesn't have them, and that is dangerous when used in business as well.
Yeah, and that's why I also say that like it takes time to build.
Yeah.
You need to think things through. You can't just think, okay, within 5 minutes I have everything in it. You need to continue customizing. And one of the questions I often get is, okay, but all this information that you're feeding right now, who will then make sure that it's maintained? Who will then make sure that it's optimized to your newest or latest? And right now, yes, of
Mhm.
course, it's the human brain who will need that, because logically, Claude can't know if I'm suddenly changing my strategy, or if I suddenly have a new team member, or if some roles changes. Of course, there's still a human person who needs to feed that information. So there's still a maintenance that we do. There's still
Yeah.
something that we need to do to make sure that it has the correct information.
Mm.
So unfortunately, we can't just logic. It can't know. Maybe in 10 years where everything is okay and we have chips in our heads or something like that, that it just like takes from your brain directly to the machine. But that's another story. That's maybe, who knows? It
That's for
probably will
another
at some point
episode.
come. It
For
probably
another
one day will
episode
come.
at another time.
Yeah.
AI is changing workflows
Mm.
across every function. How do you find that it impacts collaboration between, for example, sales, marketing, and product?
Yeah. Good question. I think that the collaboration between departments still probably need, I think most would answer, we still need to work on that. I think it's been a period where many have looked into their own department of how they can optimize workflows and so forth. And then next step would be, how can we make sure to cross collaborate on things? And that would be a thing like so many other projects, so many other collaborations. Make sure to get the right people in the room, figure out what's the main goals that you need to ensure to collaborate on, and then build the same app, dashboard, whatever you need, for workflow together, and make sure that it's a mutual ownership. um, I think that right now that transition is still super relevant. You need to still have that collaboration, AI or without AI. And I think that over the years and many years, it's always been for some, depending on who you have and how you function as a structure, either been a pain or less of a pain. Some works way more better. I think that's a company strategy overall, and it's in its own collaboration between departments, right? But I think that, of course, there will be workflows that will work even more collaborating together, but you still have to have the people taking ownership of the things. So I can't just say, okay, now I'm going to create a lead machine that makes sure that sales pick up on my leads, and agents, and make sure I can still build that, but I still need to have a salesperson picking up on it.
Yeah.
Or even if it's a sales agent who's picked, but I still need to get that collaboration working. So yeah, I think that's still down to normal collaboration between departments and making
Mm.
sure that, yeah, you talk together, you communicate together.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, in the communication point you pointed out before, and I think that is a great way to shape it off. It actually also helping to have these continuous conversations and to communicate, because that is an essential part of collaboration, right? And also of alignment.
Exactly, and it can still be a digital communication. I can still build reports to make sure that every salespeople in my organization get, I don't know, um, last week we got these hot leads in with these regions, so forth, so everybody get a mutual view of it, instead of waiting so us to have a sales marketing meeting. I can still, scheduling it, making more automation of it,
Mhm.
but you still need to communicate. If it's through a robot or through, mouth to mouth, you still need to have the communication part.
Absolutely. What signals do you trust most right now when evaluating what marketing initiatives are actually working or what needs adjustments?
Like from an AI perspective or just
Yeah,
in general?
from an AI perspective.
Oh, it's a tough one, I think, to answer. What signals do I see right now? Um, I see that we can. So one of the things that I can see that's working more efficiently is from an AI signal that it can give it if it's how I understand the question correctly, is that I see that again, coming back and bringing back to some what I said already with the data crunching, that it can
Yeah.
actually can point us to feasible and fast actions. So some things that we maybe used to have a performance review each quarter where people
Mm,
kind of prepared how did it performs. Even though they, optimized an ad, suddenly they start to use, okay, I need to have the overall overview over the last quarter. Suddenly we actually get these in real time. So
mm,
we can actually act on this even faster than ever. Um, so these are some of the signals we can faster see. We can because we can automate the reports that we want. We can
mm,
automate the actions. So, for example, in some of what I've built is like every Monday, I want you to update the data and send me reports of the most important things. So when I come into the office and check my mail or Slack or wherever the information comes in from, I actually get an overview. How this I get a little bit of a report. I get a little bit, information,
mm,
okay, where I maybe had to spend an hour before every Monday morning on just, okay, how did this week go? How did those numbers go and so forth?
mm,
So I would say that signal in real time can be faster. And one of the things that we are looking into very much, I think that the whole world of, I mean, that's more signal based that AI can also help you perform on and automate with the right connectors and with the right platform, is that I think we are going more and saying that MQL is dead. MQL that is based maybe on a lead score is gonna shift to more signal based. I mean, we've had intent, buyer intent for a very long time, but buyer intent has also been very much on a scoring process.
mm,
It's been more built like, okay, over time you get X amount of point, and then when you get enough point, you move to an SQL and sales picks up on it. But that point system can be built over 2 years. So they might have actually been more active 6 months ago. Then they revisited something, but the right activation was actually 6 months ago. But we were
mm.
waiting for the score to come before it was qualified as an MQL. And I think that right now with AI tools, we can even do it more signal based, this intent. So saying, okay, you still need to have some rules in it and explain why, but saying, okay, right now we can see there's a signal from this buyer or contact or company, they're hot leads, and then we can automate it from digital aspect, or if it's really hard, like getting a sales account or an SDR on it right away, because right now at this point they're active. We can better work on flows that automate this, but it still needs to be built but AI goes in and can better crunch those signals, so you can maybe make a more, I would say, complex algorithm that gives you these signals. Whereas before it was very much, okay, I have a job title, 5 points. I have an industry, 10 points,
Yeah.
those kind of thing. And it was just accumulating in time. Whereas here it could be made, okay, I might not have the job title, but I can see this company is really visiting us. They've seen our ads. We need to act now. And then it's okay. We might not know exactly the job title right now or something like that. So I think that AI can go in and from a signal base really help us improve because they can do way more complex algorithm for us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One last question.
Yeah.
Frenemies is about the gap between growth and reality. So where do
Mm.
you right now see the biggest gap?
I think the biggest gap right now is that people want to be more ahead than they are. So they are starting to expect a faster growth that we haven't built yet. And that's what, coming back to my chill pill comment earlier, I think yes, there's no doubt that we need to act on things fast and we need to act, but we also need to think this through. I think the gap right now is that to be careful on just thinking that AI agents can replace everything and many things,
Mm,
so we can just grow in this even more than ever, because there is also other factors in the market that goes that everybody is sitting in the same situation. So if you think you can suddenly peak 10% because you can actually do things that you couldn't do before as fast, well, your competitor can probably do exactly the same thing too. So I think
Right.
that's where the biggest gap could be with a growth aspect, that you need to just maybe think that you still grow in the same pace that you used to, but the way you working, the way you operating, the way you put your strategy, the way you're thinking your product or wherever you're sitting with
Mm.
is different. But I think it's super dangerous to say, okay, now I can increase 10% next year instead of 5 or whatever you do or whatever numbers you have. So that's yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Dorothea. Lots of great examples and insights on how to use AI in marketing, how it drives processes internally, and also a bit of an outlook on the future. So
Mm.
thanks so much for joining.
Well, thank you and thanks for having me. It was a joy.
It was.
Thanks.